We're going to work on the video solutions to the rise over run homework assignment. And what we're going to do is we're going to plot a y-intercept. Now notice here that the point they gave us, x over y, is actually a y-intercept value. So from lecture, any point that looks like this that we see, okay, 0 and a b value, this is defined to be a y-intercept, that this b value here is going to be on my y-axis. And it's at positive 2. The x-axis is, the x-coordinate value is 0, so there's no movement there. So you're given a y-intercept, and you're going to cross that y-axis at 2. And also what we're going to do here is we're going to use a slope value of 3 to find the next point. So with 2 points we can draw a line. And if my slope is 3 and it's a nice integer or whole number, just divide by 1, you now obtain a rise over a run. So this is what we're going to do in this homework assignment. We're plotting y-intercepts, and then we're going to use the slope to obtain a second point. And from those 2 points, we get to draw our line. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to need some graph paper. And again, this was discussed in homework. Or I should say, this was discussed in lecture. Sorry. So here's our graph paper, and we're first going to plot our y-intercept at 0, 2. So remember how we do this. We have the x-axis over here. We have the y-axis. And plotting 0, 2 is 1, 2. 2 units above, since up is positive, down is negative. Your y-coordinate value is positive 2. We go up 2. Now, that's our first point. What we're going to need to do is find the next point. Now, remember, we're going to use a rise over a run. So my rise is 3. I'm going to go up 3 since 3 is positive. 1, 2, 3 units. And don't forget, we go up 3 units from the y-intercept value that we just plotted. We now have a run of 1, which means go to the right 1 unit. This will be the location of the second point. So we are using from the y-intercept value a rise of 3 units. 3 is positive, we go up 3. And then we're going to run 1 unit. 1 is positive. In the horizontal direction, positive is to the right and negative is to the left. We can now draw our line. It's very difficult. Good enough. Here's our line on the iPad. This is number 1. Number 3. The y-intercept value is at 0, 4, and our slope value is negative 1. The x-coordinate and the y-coordinate, notice again, the x-coordinate is 0 and the y-coordinate is a positive 4. We're going to be on the y-axis at positive 4. My slope is an integer value of negative 1. I need a rise over a run. We're going to divide -1 by 1 because any number divided by 1 is itself. So my rise is actually negative, which means it's going to go down. And my run is positive, it goes to the right. We need a graph. Okay. 0, 4. Remember, we have an x-axis, a y-axis. 4 will be up 4 units. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the location of my y-intercept value at +4. We're now going to rise -1 unit. Now, rising -1 isn't rising at all, it's actually going down. Because again, for the y coordinate, or I should say, the y direction is up and down, it's vertical. Positive is going up, negative is going down. So for the next point, I don't go up 1, I go down 1, and then I run in the positive direction, that's horizontal. Positive is to the right, negative is to the left. This is the location of my second point. I can now draw my line. Good enough. Here's line now. Number 5. I got a y-intercept of 0, -1, and now I have a slope of 2/3. Notice I'm on the y-axis at -1. This is where I start. X-coordinate, y-coordinate. 0, -1. We're going to start at -1 on the y-axis, and that's actually, if we start at the origin and we go down 1 unit, this is where 0, -1 is. Remember, there's no movement horizontal, left or right. We're now going to use our slope. We need to rise over a run. Our rise is +2. Positive direction is up, negative direction is down, positive is to the right, negative is to the left. So if we rise 2 units from the first point that we plotted, 1, 2, it's up 2 is positive, we run now to the right 3 units, 1, 2, and 3. This is the location of the next point. Let's draw our line. Let's hope this iPad cooperates. It's good enough. Here's our line. Number 7. 0, -2. Our slope here is 1/4. Again, we have an x-coordinate, we have a y-coordinate. Notice our y-intercept is at -2, X is 0, so there's no movement left or right. We're at -2 on the y-axis. We have a rise over a run. They're both positive. So we're going to go up and we're going to go to the right. We need a graph. X-axis, y-axis. Our first point is at 0, -2. Go down 2 units. And now have a rise of 1 and a run of 4. So from this point, I go up 1 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the location of my second point. Remember, rising is positive, so that means it's up. Running here is positive, and that means it's to the right. So from the y-intercept value of -2, I get my second point. We can now draw our line. This is number 7. Number 9. The y-intercept is at 0, 3. Your slope value is at -3, 2. So let's consider where we're going to graph our first point. X is 0 again. Y is +3, so we're going to be on the y-axis at +3. Now, pay attention to what's happening over here. I have a negative slope value. Now, what we discussed in class is simply that this is -1 times the fraction of 3/2. Okay? What I tell people to do is to consider this. That -1, we're going to multiply to the numerator. So what you're going to end up getting in the numerator is a -1 times 3, which is -3. And then we're going to divide by a +2 still. Because at -1, you could multiply on the top or the bottom, just not both. So we multiply it and consider this -1 as a fraction if I divide by 1, and we multiply 2 fractions. So that's how we get a -3/2 here for a slope. So I'm going to say to you, consider this when you see it, and rewrite your slope if you have to as -3/2, meaning put this negative sign as a numerator. So your slope is -3/2. We have the rise over our run, and our rise is negative, which means we go down, and the run is positive, which means we go to the right. Let's see how this works. We have the x-axis and we have the y-axis. Now, we're going to plot our y-intercept at 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the location of our y-intercept. We need the next point, and what we're going to do is we're going to go down 3, and we're going to go to the right 2. 1, 2, 3, to the right, 1, 2. This is the location of the second point. We're going to draw our line now. This is good enough. This is our line. Notice that we go through a y-intercept at positive 3. Number 11. 0, 0. My slope is 1. We have an x-coordinate, we have a y-coordinate. 1 divided by 1 is 1. So I have a rise of 1 over a run of 1. Our y-intercept is at 0 on the y-axis. That happens to be the origin. So let's actually plot and see where we are. So here's the deal. We have our x-axis. We have our y-axis. We're going to plot the y-intercept, and that's at the origin. We're going to use the slope now. We're going to rise 1 and we're going to go up 1. Up and to the right. Because both of our values here are positive. So the location of the next point will be found by going up 1 to the right 1. Here's my second point. We can now draw our line. Notice again, the y-intercept goes through this location here at 0. This is our line. Number 13, 0, 0, a slope value of positive 3. We have an x-coordinate, we have a y-coordinate, 3 over 1. We're going to go through the origin again because our y-coordinate value is 0. This is the address of the origin, by the way, 0, 0. So our first point is going to be right at the origin. Remember again, we have the x-axis, the y-axis. Our first point at the origin, 0, 0. From this point, 0, 0, we're going to use the slope. We're going to rise 3 and we're going to run 1. Remember, both of these numbers are positive. So we're going up and we're going to the right. For the next point, up 3, 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. This is the location of the second point. We draw our line. This is what it looks like. Notice again, we went through the origin. That's where the y-intercept value is. Number 15. 0, 3 is our y-intercept, and our slope is negative 4. X coordinate value and the y coordinate value. Notice again, we're going to go through the y-axis at positive 3. Our slope of negative 4 can be written as negative 4 over 1 because any number divided by 1 is itself. So we have a rise of negative 4 and a run of positive 1. That means we're going to go down 1 unit and to the right 1 unit. Let's add our paper. x-axis, y-axis. The location of the y-intercept is at positive 3. So since 3 is positive, we go up 3 units. 1, 2, 3. This is the location of our y-intercept. Let's recall. Up is positive. Down is negative. To the right is positive. To the left is negative. So I'm now going to use my slope of negative 4, 1 to determine the location of the next point. So my rise is negative. That means I go down 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. I went down 4 units from the y-intercept point. And then I'm going to the right 1 unit because my 1 is positive. Again, take a look. Down 4 units, 1 unit to the right. This is the location of my second point. I'm going to draw my line. Notice again, your y-intercept is at positive 3. That's where you cross the y-axis. Number 17. 0, negative 4. My slope is 4, 3. You have your x-coordinate, you have your y-coordinate. Notice we're going through negative 1 on the y-axis. This is the location of the y-intercept. Our slope here is both positive, meaning your rise is 4, your run is 3, 2 positive numbers. Let's use our graph paper. X-axis, y-axis. Here we go. The y-intercept is at 0, negative 1, so it's down 1 unit from the origin, because again, positive is up, negative is down, right and left. So we're going down 1 unit from the origin for the y-intercept. We're now going to use our slope of 4, 3. They're both positive, so that means from this y-intercept, I go up 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 3 units. 1, 2, and 3. This is the location of my second point. Let's draw our line. Here's the line. Number 19. 0, 4 is the y-intercept. My slope is 1/2. X is 0, y is 4. So we're going to go through the y-axis at positive 4. Let's bring some paper. X-axis, y-axis. We're going to go up 4 units because that's where 4 is on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is our location. If you like, draw a line through that 4. I haven't been doing that. I've just been plotting it, but if it helps you see things better, okay. We'll start to do that. Now again, notice our slope here is a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So we're going to rise 1 and we're going to run 2 from the y-intercept. So I'm going to go up 1 unit and to the right 2 units. I'm going to use the slope to find the location of the next point. Let's get the iPad to cooperate. Let's try that again. Here's our line. (21, 0, 0) with a slope of -3. We have a rise over a run. So that means our rise is negative, we go down 3 units. Our run is positive, we go to the right 1 unit. And it's all from the origin because the y-intercept is at 0. So let's get some graph paper. You have the x-axis, the y-axis. We're going to start at the origin. That's the location of our first point. That's the y-intercept. From here, we're going to go down 3 units because our rise is negative. 1, 2, 3. We're going to run to the right 1 unit, because 1 is positive. This is the location of our second point from the y-intercept. We can now draw our line. We have 2 points. Here's our line. (23, 0, -2). Slope is a 6. We have an x-coordinate, we have a y-coordinate. Notice we're passing through -2 on the y-axis. We have a rise of 6, we have a run of 1. Let's bring out some graph paper. X-axis, y-axis. So on the y-axis, I go through -2. So to get there, we have to go down 2 units from the origin. This is the location of my y-intercept. If you like, indicate that that's -2. We're now going to use our slope. Rise is +6. Up is positive. Run is +1. To the right is positive from your y-intercept. So let's go up 6 units now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then to the right 1 unit. This is the location of our second point. Let's draw our line. And we're done. Number 25. The y-intercept is at 0, 1, and our slope is at negative 4/3. X-coordinate, y-coordinate. Keep in mind that the slope here is negative. So I'm going to write my slope as simply negative 1 times that fraction of 4/3. And the negative 1 here is going to get multiplied to the positive 4. So my slope's going to be simply negative 4/3. Y-intercept starts at 1 on the y-axis. So let's rewrite this, get some graph paper, and see what this line looks like. Negative 4/3, where we have a rise of negative 4, a run of positive 3. That means I go down 4 units and I go to the right 3 units. X-axis, y-axis. On the y-axis, I'm at positive 1. So I go up 1 unit from the origin. Here's where I start. If you want, label the y-intercept at 1 there. Now use your slope. Go down 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to the right 1, 2, 3 units. This is the location of your second point. Let's draw our line. And we're done.